All right, so today we're going to be looking at some unusual training strategies.
Yeah.
Like outside-the-box training strategies.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 case studies to dig into.
Yeah, should be fun.
I think it'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So the first one kind of revolves around the idea of, like, the elusive vacation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that thing that...
that business owners dream of.
yeah, business owners dream of but never actually get to take.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a struggle. I hear it all the time.
So we've got a guy named Hector Henriquez.
Okay.
He runs a signage company called Visual Graphics.
All right.
And he was able to actually take a vacation.
Wow. Good for him.
And it wasn't just like a long weekend. It was a proper, like, get away from it all vacation.
Nice.
And he did this through using some clever training strategies.
Interesting. So what was he doing before that was preventing him from taking a vacation?
Well, he
Was it just like a
he was basically...
fear?
Yeah, well, kind of. He was having some problems with delegation. And also, knowledge was really siloed within his company.
Okay.
He was like the bottleneck.
Yeah. Single point of failure.
Yeah.
Classic problem.
But so he realized that that was the problem, and rather than just kind of accepting it as fate, he
took some action.
he decided to tackle it.
Good for him.
So first, he made an effort to hire people that had multiple skill sets,
Okay.
and then cross-train them to be able to handle different roles.
I see.
So that if somebody, was out sick or on vacation,
And forbid.
other people could step in and keep things running.
Oh, that's great.
So it wasn't even just about, plugging holes in the schedule or whatever.
You're right.
But it was also just about making the workplace more collaborative and flexible.
Yeah. That cross-training can really help with that.
Yeah. And then to kind of address the knowledge silo problem,
Yeah.
he started documenting all the company's procedures.
Interesting.
Like he made...
So like manuals and stuff.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
that really helped with, training new employees.
Yeah.
But also it empowered existing employees to kind of take on more responsibilities.
I see.
And he created a culture of trust.
That's huge.
He really encouraged his team to make decisions and take ownership of their work.
So essential.
And that was really important for him to be able to actually step away and not worry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it worked.
He got his vacation.
You guys go on vacation.
That's fantastic. What a great example
What?
of how training can really impact not just,
Yeah.
the business, but the individual as well.
Founder's life, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's
Shift gears a little bit.
talk about something else
Okay.
that a lot of businesses struggle with,
Right.
and that's high turnover,
Ugh. Yeah, it's a tough one.
especially in the real estate industry.
It's notorious.
It's really bad.
Yeah, you're constantly, losing people, having to
Yeah.
recruit new people. It's a lot of work.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
But there's this company, Metro Property Management,
Okay.
run by Leah Cullen, and they've managed to achieve really high staff retention rates.
How'd they do that?
Well, a lot of it comes down to their training.
Okay.
They really focus on training.
So it's not just about teaching them the bare minimum of how to do their job.
Yeah.
It's about investing in them and
But
making them
it's-
feel valued.
They have what they call a structured training program,
Okay.
and they have regular reviews and feedback.
So
But it's not just like your typical top-down performance review.
what do they do?
They do 360-degree feedback.
Oh, wow.
So you're getting feedback not only from your manager, but also your peers and even clients.
That's interesting. So everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that creates a sense of accountability, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it keeps everybody, on their toes in a good way.
Yeah. And then they're also really big on transparency.
Okay.
So she keeps her employees informed about company decisions.
Right?
And she's always asking for their ideas and suggestions.
So that they feel involved.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it's not just about providing training, but also creating a culture where people feel valued
I love that.
and empowered.
Yeah.
And then another thing that she does is she's constantly looking at best practices
Oh,
in training.
so other companies.
Yeah, like what are other companies doing that's working, and how can we adapt that to our own company?
That's clever. Always be learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about continuous improvement.
I like it.
Okay, so this last case study is a little bit different.
Okay.
This is about succession planning,
Oh, interesting.
which is something that I think a lot of companies,
Especially ones with an aging workforce.
yeah, especially those with an aging workforce, really need to think about more seriously.
It's tough, though, because you've got all this knowledge and expertise walking out the door when people retire.
Yeah.
So how do you capture that
Yeah.
before it's gone?
Yeah. Right. So this company, the Marriott Resort in Surfer's Paradise,
Okay.
they had their head teppanyaki chef
What?
who was getting ready to retire.
Okay, so that's a specialized skill.
Yeah. And they were kind of facing a crisis.
Yeah, you can't just hire anybody off the street to do that.
Right.
That's their signature,
Right.
teppanyaki chef.
So instead of like scrambling to find somebody,
Mm-hmm.
Externally,
Yeah.
they looked internally.
No.
And they realized that one of their security guards
Really?
had expressed an interest in cooking.
Interesting. So they took a chance.
They did.
Wow.
They retrained him
That's awesome.
to be the new teppanyaki chef.
That's thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I love it.
And they had the retiring chef actually mentor
Oh, that's great.
the new chef.
Wonderful.
And it worked out really well.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
I love that.
So it was a win-win.
Yeah,
The retiring chef was able to kind of gradually step back from his role.
right.
And the new chef got, this amazing one-on-one training.
Yeah, from a master.
And the company was able to retain that knowledge.
Exactly.
And
Never
yeah.
he wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we've got these 3 very different case studies.
Yeah, but they all have something in common.
Yeah.
They're all using training in a very strategic way.
To solve problems.
Exactly.
Whether it's, being able to take a vacation or reducing employee turnover or succession planning.
And they're all going beyond, just the traditional training methods.
Right.
They're being creative
Yeah.
and adapting their approaches to their own unique needs.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm really taking away from all this is
Yeah.
just how important that culture of learning and development is
Yeah,
for any training program to really be successful.
for sure.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, so in part 2, we're gonna get a little bit more practical.
Great.
We'll break down like how to design and implement these types of programs
Great. Right.
based on what we learned from these case studies.
Excellent.
So get your notepads ready.
And get ready to be inspired.
We're gonna get into the nitty-gritty.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome back. All right, so are you ready to get into like the how-to?
Let's do it.
Like how do we actually
Yeah.
create these awesome training programs?
Yeah, let's get practical.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is figure out the why.
Okay, the why.
Like, what are your goals?
Right, you got to have a purpose.
Yeah. It's like if you were going to build a house, you wouldn't just start laying bricks without a blueprint.
Exactly. You need a plan.
You need to know what you're doing.
So define those objectives.
Yeah.
What are you trying to achieve with this training?
Are you trying to improve employee performance or,
Boost retention.
yeah, or maybe prepare for some future challenges?
Right, or even something completely different.
Yeah. And you got to make sure that your goals are specific and measurable.
Oh, absolutely. That's so important.
Like, how will you know if it's working if you can't measure it?
Exactly. You need those metrics.
So like with Hector,
Yeah, the vacation guy.
his goal wasn't just to train his employees. It was to empower them to handle everything so that he could actually leave.
Totally. And that's measurable. He either took the vacation or he didn't.
Exactly. And with Leah,
Yeah.
her goal was to reduce employee turnover.
Right.
And she could track that by, looking at the numbers.
Exactly. The data tells the story.
Okay. So once you have those goals figured out, then...
Well, then you've got to think about your audience.
Okay.
Who are you actually training?
Not just like their job titles or whatever.
All right, it's more than that.
But like, who are they?
Yeah, what are their skill levels?
Right.
What are their knowledge levels?
How do they like to learn?
What motivates them?
Yeah, because everybody learns differently.
Oh, absolutely. Some people love lectures.
Yeah.
Some people need to be hands-on.
Yeah. Some are visual learners, some are auditory learners.
And let's not forget about those generational differences.
Oh, yeah.
A Gen Z employee might learn very differently than a baby boomer.
So how do you deal with all that?
Ask them.
What?
Ask your audience. Do surveys hold focus groups, have conversations?
To figure out how they want to learn.
Exactly. What works best for them?
And then
You can tailor your program
to their needs.
to their preferences.
So like maybe you have some online modules for people who like to learn at their own pace.
Right.
And then maybe some group workshops for people who are more hands-on.
And, think about Leah's approach with that 360-degree feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Giving everybody a voice.
Yeah.
Not only does that provide, valuable insights,
Right.
but it also creates that sense of ownership.
Yeah. They're involved.
They're engaged.
Okay. So we got the goals. We got the audience.
Now let's talk content.
The meat and potatoes.
What are you actually going to teach?
So this is where you really got to focus on those goals.
Yes, tie everything back to those objectives.
Yeah. So if your goal is to improve customer service,
Then your training should be all about customer service.
exactly.
Specific skills, techniques, best
But
practices.
think outside the classroom,
Oh, yeah. Get creative.
like the Marriott with the teppanyaki chef.
That apprenticeship model.
Yeah.
So cool.
Hands-on learning.
Real world experience.
Okay, so now we know what we're teaching.
How are we going to teach it?
Delivery methods.
Yeah, this is where it gets fun.
So many options these
Oh my
days.
goodness, you've got online courses,
There's simulations,
gamification.
virtual reality.
The possibilities are endless.
But don't get too caught up in the tech.
No, it's not about the bells and whistles.
It's about creating a meaningful learning experience.
Exactly. Choose the tools and methods that best support your objectives.
And that resonate with your audience.
Right.
Okay, so goals, audience, content, delivery methods. What else?
Don't forget about evaluation.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to measure the effectiveness of this program?
Because it's not enough to just do the training and hope for the best.
Oh, you got to know if it's actually making a difference.
So how do we do that?
Well, you can use assessments.
Okay.
Pre-training and post-training.
To see what they learn.
Exactly. You can observe on-the-job performance.
See if they're actually using the skills.
Right. And get feedback from the trainees themselves.
Oh, yeah. Ask them what they thought.
Exactly. Did they find it valuable?
Did it make a difference?
And look for ways to quantify the impact.
Okay.
Did the training lead to increased productivity?
Or better customer satisfaction scores.
Fewer errors.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of metrics that really show the value of your training.
Okay, so there's one more thing that I think is super important.
What's that?
Company culture.
Ah, yeah.
You can have the best training program in the world.
But if your workplace doesn't support learning,
It's going to fail.
it's going to fall flat.
Because if people are afraid to make mistakes or ask questions,
They're not going to be open to
they're
learning.
going to shut down
You need to create that safe space.
where they can experiment and learn and grow.
A growth mindset environment.
So how do we do that?
Leadership.
Leaders have to set the example.
They have to walk the walk.
Yeah, participate in training themselves.
Encourage their teams to do the same.
Celebrate learning successes.
Make it clear that learning is valued.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
Goals, audience, content delivery methods, evaluation culture.
It's a lot, but don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Start with one or two things
That will make the biggest impact.
and build from there.
And before we move on to the last part,
Okay.
I want to shift gears for a second and talk about you.
The listener.
Yeah, because we've been talking about training in the workplace.
But this applies to personal growth, too.
It does.
Learning is for everyone.
So what are some things that you've been wanting to learn?
What skills have you been wanting to develop?
Maybe learn a new language.
Take up a musical instrument.
Dive into a new subject.
Think about what would bring you joy.
What would expand your horizons?
What would make you a more well-rounded person?
And in our final segment, we're going to talk about some common training pitfalls to avoid.
Oh, yes, those traps that can sabotage your efforts.
So stay tuned. Okay, so we're back and ready to talk about some potential training pitfalls.
Yeah, those things that can trip you up.
Yeah, those mistakes that can make your training program go off the rails.
Exactly.
So what's the first one we got to watch out for?
Well, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes is starting a training program without clear objectives.
Oh yeah, like what are we even trying to do here?
Exactly. You need a destination in mind.
Otherwise, you're just wandering around aimlessly.
It's like setting sail without a map.
So how do we avoid that?
That goes back to what we talked about before.
Goals.
Yes. Define those goals.
Really figure out what you're trying to achieve.
What specific skills or knowledge are you targeting?
And how is this training going to benefit everyone involved?
And don't just settle for those vague goals.
Like improved communication.
Yeah, or enhance teamwork.
Those are too broad.
You got to get more specific.
So like if you're talking about communication,
Yeah.
what kind of communication?
Are we talking written communication, verbal communication?
Interpersonal communication.
Yeah, what outcomes are you looking for?
You want clearer emails,
More productive meetings.
better conflict resolution skills.
Once you have those specific, measurable goals.
Then you can build a training program that actually gets you there.
Okay, so pitfall number 2,
What is it?
the one-size-fits-all trap.
Ah, yeah, trying to use the same program for everyone.
Even though everyone's different.
Everyone learns differently.
Exactly. Some people love lectures, some people hate them.
Some people are visual learners, some are auditory.
Some are kinesthetic, they need to move around.
So how do we deal with all that variety?
Well, first of all, acknowledge that there is no one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
You got to be flexible,
I mess things up,
offer different types of learning experiences,
like online modules,
group workshops,
hands-on activities.
and involve your trainees in the design process.
Oh yeah, get their input.
Ask them what works best for them.
Okay, so another pitfall.
The set it and forget it mentality.
Ah, yes, like
Yeah.
planting a garden and then just walking away.
Hoping for the best.
But training is not a one-time thing.
It's an ongoing process.
It needs attention.
It needs nurturing.
So how do we keep our training programs from withering away?
Evaluation.
Regularly check in on how things are going.
Gather feedback.
Make adjustments as needed.
It's like fine-tuning an engine.
You got to keep it running smoothly.
All right, and here's one that's often overlooked,
Okay.
but it's so important.
What is it?
The importance of a supportive learning culture.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
But it's worth repeating.
Because you can have the best training content.
The most engaging delivery methods.
But if your workplace doesn't value learning,
it's not going to stick.
people need to feel safe to ask questions,
To make mistakes.
to experiment.
And to learn from those experiences.
So how do we create that kind of environment?
Leadership.
Leaders have to set the tone,
They need to model that commitment to learning.
not just for themselves, but for their teams as well,
They need to create a space where it's okay to not have all the answers.
where asking questions is seen as a good thing.
And they need to walk the walk.
Participate in training.
Provide opportunities for professional development.
Celebrate learning successes.
Show everyone that learning is valued.
So we've talked about a lot of things today.
Oh, we have.
The importance of clear goals,
Understanding your audience.
creating engaging content,
Choosing the right delivery methods.
evaluating your progress,
And fostering that supportive learning culture.
and whether you're developing training for your company,
Or just for your own personal growth.
these principles can really make a difference.
So keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring.
Thanks for joining us.